This week on MotoMan, we look at the house that Henry built and see what they're up to today. Having grown up on Buicks and Chevys, I've never been a big Ford guy, to say the least. Don't get me wrong, I respect Fords. I've always been a big fan of Mustangs and Thunderbirds and especially Shelby GT500s and Ford GTs. It's just, ever since the Explorer came out, Ford has been all about trucks all the time. Well, a funny thing happened back in 2006. Ford decided to bring in a guy from Boeing, a guy who's really well known about making airplanes. He decided to come in and run the company. And the first thing he did was put the company in complete hock, like running up your credit cards. Now granted, I'll admit, I was a bit skeptical about it at the time. But what they've done is they've taken that money and they're starting to build cars. Not trucks, but cars, and cars people want to buy. Like this Fiesta, for example. It's coming over to this country. It's designed and built in Germany right now, but it's the most fun thing this side of the Mini that I'd want to own. We recently had the opportunity to spend some time in their like Willy Wonka chocolate factory of sorts that's run by Freeman Thomas, their advanced design director. Let's see what he had to say about the future of Ford. We are in Ford's Advanced Design Studio in Irvine, California, and we've got three very cool Lincolns to show you. We've got a 56 Continental, we've got a 61 Continental back there, and then we've got the new upcoming Lincoln Continental C. Actually, I don't know if it's a Continental, but I know it's called the C. It has nothing to do with the names of this car or this car. Lincoln's trying to take their brand into a totally new segment, which is something you would see like a Mini, a Focus, a VW Golf, that size. So the C is looking to bring Lincoln to a smaller design. Now I've got a complete departure from Lincolns of yesterday. Instead of rear view mirrors, I've got rear view cameras, which give me a display throughout the dash. I've got one camera for the right, one camera for the left, and they're in the car on this wide, expansive dash. But you'd think you'd be blocked by the steering wheel. In this case, there's no steering wheel hub. It's kind of odd, I have to say. I'm not kind of used to this. It would take some getting used to. Granted, this one doesn't even steer. It's basically plastic. But still a neat idea unto itself. You've got a 61 Continental back here, which I think is one of the all-time classic cars out there, especially when you consider what a 61 competitor to that, a 61 Cadillac or a 61 Chrysler Imperial looked like, and that was so sleek and elegant at time at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you see something like that in your product line? Like that one had unique features with the suicide doors and a 4-seat convertible. Do you see Lincoln doing that again?
To do that now is not the right time to do it right now.
Now, why would you think that's not the right time to do something like that?
Because I think that we want to create something that reinvents the brand.
When did the point, you go to like a car show and you see cars like this over here. We've got a 61 Ferrari 250 convertible over here. You think of a car like that and it's like, wow, it's one man's vision. When did the time of one guy came up with a design and the car was greenlit? When did that end, and when did it go to 5 people or 10 people or whatever it is today?
I think it's still, that's not one person. It's maybe one person sketched it.
Yeah.
And then you still have to have somebody, in that case they didn't do it out of clay, but somebody built a body buck, and then, and they're artisans, and then eventually somebody engineered it, and so you still have the 5 people involved with that car.
Okay, to
but
everybody.
what Ford does is that it knows how to build things affordably, so that, and it can build them across a global platform. So you're not paying, you're getting premium for affordable prices.
Do you feel it's giving you a better product out there, a better competing product out there in the market?
Oh, absolutely. It really goes back to the Mustang. It's always the textbook example
Yeah.
of the product, that the wow, the success, it's the big bang. And to most people, they would say, well, you look at this Ferrari, and the Mustang really was making that car affordable. So I go from being a designer on the board to being a coach and a mentor.
Yeah.
And
that's primarily what you're doing now. You're the coach. You're the guy running the show.
And I sit and I sketch and I draw and I input ideas and drawings and I edit and so it's almost like, if you're George Lucas and you start off doing your student film and you're doing every aspect of it, and now what you're doing is you're going up to 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, and you're trusting all the different people in your team, but at the same time, you control every aspect through that trust.
Well, it makes perfect sense. You go from being the guy who's the individual contributor to the guy who's actually, once the wheels are off the ground, you're actually figuring out where you're going to fly the plane.
Exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
Totally understand. We stumbled upon a fantastic thing in this design studio, which you normally wouldn't think of car design, a taxi for the greatest city in the world, courtesy of Jeff Neild here. Jeff, can you give us a quick overview of some of the cool features on it?
Currently in use in Europe, and it's coming to the United States in the next few months. And,
so this is in service as a taxi in Europe?
It is in service as a commercial vehicle. They use it for everything under the sun.
The British white van man.
Right.
Yes.
Right. There are 15,000 Crown Victorias in New York City, and one of the things we thought was interesting is that if New York was to convert to using Transit Connects, if they were to use 15,000 Transit Connects, they would gain about 10 acres of space in the city.
Now, I'd like to know how much in terms of real estate would that cost? How much money would I actually get if I sold you 10 acres of real estate in New York City?
We estimated that 10 acres of space in New York City is worth about $430 million.
This guy's not just a designer. This guy, Donald Trump, has got something to worry about with this guy on his heels.
When I was at Audi, it wasn't the best of times for Audi.
That was right after the unintended acceleration. 91.
But today they're in a much different position because they were very passionate about their engineering and they were very consistent with their engineering. We have certain vehicles in our lineup that we've been very consistent with from day one. Cars like Mustang. Trucks like the F-Series truck. But we honestly, in the rest of our lineup, have been spotty. And we have to go away from being that mile wide.
I understand. Be more focused.
More focused. We want to be conscientious.
Okay.
And I think that is being proactive, and it's not proactive based off of the economy. It's proactive because we want to create that as a foundation. And I think that the flavor is going to, every one of our vehicles have flavor, but none of our vehicles will be bland.
Actually, you bring up a very good point there. I was only a teenager when the Taurus came out, the original Taurus.
Yes.
And it was a huge departure from Ford, a huge departure. And now I'm seeing this Taurus again, and again, it's a huge departure. I never thought I'd ever say there'd be a Taurus with a 365 horsepower engine. So was it by design that you guys said, okay, we got to take this Taurus and take it out of the race with the Camry and the Accord and go forward?
It's being honest, because the Taurus created that original market segment for the Camry and the Accord.
But I see you guys as unfairly in that area because it's a bigger car, it's more value.
We abandoned it. We honestly abandoned it, just like we did with a lot of our products. And what happened is we tried to be too pragmatic with the Ford 500, and which when Alan came by and he renamed it the Taurus, which was the first step of getting ourselves focused. And what we did was, because it's a good platform under that vehicle, it's basically the Volvo S80 platform. And we, within design, took the much more aggressive approach to the styling of that vehicle. It's much more efficient aerodynamically, and at the same time, styling-wise, it's much more something that you'd say, gosh, I want that car. And it drives fantastic. So now all the things start to come together, and we think that vehicle is going to do really well.
Am I the only one that noticed? Me and the advanced design director of Ford, same shoes. All I'm going to say is, great minds think alike. Fashion aside, 3 of 7 new designs that are coming out from Ford. That is a lot of news. But what was really interesting, Freeman shared a lot of new information with us. He talked about two things in particular: honesty and consistency, both in design and the messaging from Ford to the customer base, which is us, car guys. And we're already seeing that. Cars like the Fiesta, cars like the Taurus. There's new stuff coming out. Now, if I'm going to give a message to Jay Mays, to Alan Mullally, and to Freeman Thomas, my wish list is this. I'd like to see a purpose-built rear-drive car. I'd like to see a modern interpretation of the 61 Continental. I'm very excited to see these new cars. Hawking the company or not, I'm excited to see Ford focused on cars again. So you've ridden in a lot of taxis?
Yeah, plenty of research.
Smell-o-vision?
Yep.
Good man. You have a convertible, folding top, 6-speed transmission, and 540 horsepower. It is impossible to drive a car like this and not giggle like a schoolgirl. I'm going to ask him about his shoes, where he got them. I'm looking forward to riding one of these things.
Me too.
But I still want the air freshener in the back like we talked about. I got to tell you, I'm tired just listening to your career. 4 years in the Air Force, you went to design school, you were a journalist, you're head of Ford Design. I don't know where you fit all that time.
I don't know either.